My name is Ed the Pagan, as I am known for my branding and legendary name. I got that name through the media itself back in '95. Love talk radio. Listen to it all the time. Chicago, Rokon, Gary Meyer. Whenever they would bring up a pagan story, I was calling in there to give the right information. One day they said, well, we have to call you something. And the next minute I heard, hi, we have Ed the Pagan on the line. And they called me Ed the Pagan ever since then. In 2000, I went to a pagan event. We were supposed to go outside. Drummer Baker was there at this Crossroads 2000. All the bigger names are out there. Soberon, Rick Johnson, a lot of these bigger names. And she introduced us. Talking to us about the 1990 Problem of World Religions is Ed the Pagan. Oh God, I'm mortified. I'm sitting there like, oh my God. It's one thing to have to say it outside the media, but these guys are all pagan. Everybody went, so like, I got through that. And since then, I've kind of built it up as a name. It's very important because it's an essential tool of what I would call marketing in the pagan world. It's very simple. It's very authorized. And one of the reasons I got really comfortable with it is that at one time somebody told me I might be the only pagan that a majority of people love. Yeah, I'm out there, and so they see it. So that's a very important part. So I took it a lot more seriously. So today we have a problem in our language. Our language is now what they call superfluid, and it's a term they often use in physics. They use it in other ways. It means words don't catch hold anymore, and we're using words in all sorts of different ways. So what is a word? Everybody gets into this. What do you think a word is? I mean, literally, what is a word?
The vocalization of a concept or an idea.
Okay, that's a way of arranging letters. Okay. So it is a symbol that you recognize as a constant thing. Like the letter A used to stand for, when I got really started out, as a head of a cat. And then it got flipped, and it was something that got changed. And how it got from there to be the letter, the symbol of it, was incorporated. But the original use of the word A, where it had to pertain to cattle. And so everything we speak of is all these layers of symbols. So sustainability, this idea of sustainability that we all want to talk about. And before I give you why it is such a buzzword, let me go ahead and we'll start with you. Why don't you tell us what you think sustainability is? There is no wrong answers here.
Sustainability is living on your own production, basically. Having chickens, producing your own eggs, is your own way of sustaining it. Growing a garden, sustaining it.
Okay. That's a very good comment. Yeah, that's good.
The ability to endure.
Ability what?
To endure.
Endure.
Something consistent.
So yours is the closest to the actual real that to endure. Something to endure. And guess what? We have now accepted, so we use the idea of sustainability. And now, why is it a buzzword? Because we really don't have a definition for it. It literally means to endure or to continue over a long period of time. So we have a sustainable oil-based economy. You can use the word sustainable in front of it because I can guarantee I can go out tomorrow and get a gallon of gas, put in my car that takes me a certain space, or I can get kerosene for my lamps. That's sustainable. And you can argue about the environmental consequences and the badness of it and everything else. But that doesn't change the word of it being sustainable. Or that would last for a long time, not being good. And a sustained affection is still a sustained affection. It means it is an affection. So marketing words come into existence where we can start using it to sell you a product. So if I told you my chickens were sustainably raised, what does that mean? Yes.
I've never heard anyone refer to chickens as being sustainably raised.
Oh, it's a big. Huh?
I haven't either.
But you have heard
Free range,
yeah. Organic, right? Mm-hmm. So any word that's going to trigger you to buy something or you think that something is better, it's going to be it. Sustainability has now become the belief that you are helping loves land. And that's why it's such a terrible word. Because it's the same thing. It's not like a lot of other words. So recycling used to be a really focused, direct word. And that when we were sold on the idea that aluminum and plastic are highly recyclable items, right? Today, recycling has gotten into the background for the marketing word. Everything's recyclable. And I know from my own experience, more than 85% recyclables end up in landfills. Remarkable. Because you can't sell recycled goods. No one wants recycled goods. So another market word. No, sustainability is the same thing. Or organically raised. So there used to be that organics used to have a really tight definite. First of all, it had a big one. Anyone can say they're organic. There was no government interference. Then around 1975, they really started clamping down on it because it was marketable. Anything that can make you a penny more than the next guy over becomes the next thing word. So whatever makes you a penny more than the guy next to you. So over the long run, you'll win. So handcrafting came in. So there was a lot of handcrafted products used called American folk art. When it became Americana, so when American folk art became Americana, you can add 2 more zeros to every single article. You're right. It's true. It happened. Now you got toys from the 1950s. Now they're vintage. Let's add another zero to them. So we all have these triggers and mental in this. So in sustainability culture, let's call it what it is. It's a Gaia culture, or it is a closed loop culture, or I can teach you, let's give you some words that have not yet been contaminated to help you really describe what I call it. If you want to know how to sell this stuff to people, use the word sustainable. I used to say I have sustainably raised worms. It worked. They were sustained. I fed them city trash. Grew over a ton of them. Well over a ton of them. City trash, which was never going to go away. And the worms ate them in the city. By definition, they were sustainable. Actually, but they weren't sustainable. And what I kept trying to explain to people, who's getting my way, I said, you know, it's sustainable. It's going to last. No. My worms grow at an exponential rate, and they're regenerative. Okay. And everybody looks at me like, what does that mean? So when you have these sort of idea of buzzwords, a buzzword has a singular job. It's to cut you off at the pass, thinking any deeper about it, and making whatever choices based on it. That's what a buzzword is. It is literally saying, better luck next time. It gets you to stop thinking about your loss and then start to pick at yourself and then think about how you lost and how you're going to fix it. Mm-hmm. Better luck next time. So, yeah, I didn't do anything really wrong. You don't have to think about it. Shortcuts you from taking that analysis. Anything that keeps you from analyzing is always going to be a buzzword that cuts off. And sometimes it's toxic. The most toxic what we're dealing with now. Boys will be boys. It means literally you can't, when somebody says that, you literally can't have a conversation. And so now that's going to happen with the sustainability work. I'm an organic farmer. Really, can you talk about your techniques? Well, yeah, but I'm organic. Mm-hmm. You can't convince the people this becomes a shortcut. Sustainability work, that sort of thing. So we can't really think about it. What we're really thinking about, when we talk about sustainable culture, is how do we survive and endure for a long period. And the words we use, permaculture, is a good one. Culture that's more permanent, and that's the insulation of land and growing it. I mean, this is the way so everybody thinks of the Amazon rainforest as natural wild spaces. This is one of the biggest myths in history. We have now found spot after spot after spot. You don't know how many times we have burnt the Amazon forest to the ground and replanted it with our own crops. It looks like we've done it 4 times in history. And that the Amazon rainforest, the reason why it was so good at the end, because we started this about 4,500 years ago, so it ended up about 300. BC was the last of the big ones. They turned it into food forests. They were able to sustain themselves. They turned their forest into agriculture. Northwest Forest, you go to the Peruvians, they were like, why is all these fruit trees here? And it took them like 30 years to figure out, find a tribe, found that they basically differently. When we hear people talk about sustainability, that's what we imagine it. But what it really means in the industrial society of Chicago, it means we have a farm where we're feeding it organic chemicals under lights through tubes, growing lettuce, spinach, everything else. Nothing chemical. It's all organic materials, fish oils, and things like that. Into water, suspension, fed at the roots under artificial lights with electricity using solar or methane generated by some other method, or offset through the city power grid. Right?
Mhm.
And that is sustainable for that's sustainable agriculture. Not the stuff you're growing out of the ground. And it considers 90% of the water, it uses 10%, it uses 10% less light than out there. You would think away the electricity out there, and less human labor. So that's what a sustainable process looks like on your market. So the words you were looking for, is it permanently housed? Organic, what is that? The process I just said, and I've seen it. I don't know if I consider it organic. It's machine and vertical farming. I'm a big advocate for it. And it's sustainable. So sustainable, things will take us to Mars. We'll have other space stations. We'll have a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
That's sustainable. Right. Now, chocolate is not sustainable. We should not have chocolate. It's a free culture. We shouldn't have chocolate.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's a cultural bias.
I know.
We've got Nestle. Nestle just admitted like 2 weeks ago that talking about the slave using children laborers to collect chocolate hurts chocolate sales. They literally said it hurts chocolate sales. We couldn't sell it affordably if we used regular labor.
It's all lucky, sir. That's why milk is cheap.
But yet that chocolate is marked as a sustainable product because of the chemicals that's put into it and how it's grown. And it's never considered part of the practice of the trade. But individual companies, they're not taking into account. They use another word concerning the buzzword called fair trade.
We're gonna say that.
So understand, everything we're doing in this field is being turned into buzzword. And a buzzword and a marketing word is any word that you can use to make somebody buy your product over the next.
And make them feel good about doing this.
Right. And it does have a beneficial effect. We have more real organic food in the market than we ever had. Organic farms are doing really well. White Raven here has a real chance of creating products that they can batch and provide to their community, either in trade, barter, or in paying their taxes, like collecting small amount of taxes. They're building a permaculture for it. So there's real value into it. I mean, don't get me wrong, that you have to use it. So how are we going to, so I always say, okay, now I've identified what I think is part of the problem inside our own community. How do we start talking about sustainable farm? Well, we stop talking about sustainable farm and make that the baseline. They're farms. And we don't make it. So we always call it medicine, and then why Chinese medicine alternative? Interesting phrase. The traditional long-term medicinal practices are called alternative to the much short-run chemical medicine. Why? Why do we do that?
Because AMA has lock on. You can say it's
Right. And so they use language to change it. So the other word I like to use is actually regenerative. Words are generative. Words are super fluid. Right? And right now they're going to hear a lot of closed loop farm. Okay. It's a very nice idea. And it's actually really close. So it's like space stations. It's a little bit of a fantasy. The idea is that everything on this property would then produce enough to feed X number of people. Okay? And you don't have to ever leave this property to produce everything. It takes about 5 acres to do it for an average of 4 to 8. And what it is that you have the pigs and the pigs feed. You take the crap and it's mixed in and it's bird food got turned into methane. to generate the power. The only thing that you need from the outside then is the machinery parts. You use as few as possible, and that's called closed loop. Or it can be very, very complicated. I mean, the space station, the ISS, is a very large and powerful, mostly closed loop. Almost everything, even the Earth, is mostly closed because we don't generate our own energy. We have to constantly get energy. So we're not even close, and we have to get our minerals from. We have to get some of our rare minerals. It takes a long time, and with us humans, we start to see it meters of the Earth. But most of our minerals form in the hearts of suns. We forget that oxygen brought around 500 and over 5,000 different types of crystals. It could not exist without the birth of life and oxygen. So we have these very strong perceptions. And in that, what I described to you was literally impossible for me to describe a little more than 150 years ago. Because you had to understand something word. Evolution. 150 years ago, we didn't even have the concept, not really, of those ideas. So one of the things we do is that we're always striving to build words, try to describe these ideas. And then people like new words called novelty. Novelty. Right? So we invent words, we invent ideas. That's why we want to be super fluid. And now it's an old word, right? Yeet or YOLO. You live only once.
I've never heard that. I live in Kansas.
So we have these sort of words we use constantly. So in sort of that, so you're gonna hear permaculture, closed loop, meaning you try to keep as much of the energy on the farm. You don't take your compost out and you have someone else. Or in cities, you have composting being taken care of, provided back to the garden. Anything that makes a loop is now considered as more sustainable, a more sustainable culture. You have to close the loops. Because if you don't have a closed loops, you're going to have an end byproduct of pollution. Even if it's multiple steps away, you want to keep the length of that, but more steps away. So you're hearing that what is your sustainable chain? And this is the one that's going to explain to make the process. Because we now first turn it into a buzzword, and then we do something, turn it into a process. And then we turn it into a checklist. And then we forget about it and just become a normal, healthy part of our culture. Whatever it is. We do lots of things. I mean, hairspray is not the same as it was in the 50s. Fluorofluorocarbons went through this process. We discovered they were bad. We said we should go out and ban them. And everybody goes, oh, no, we don't want to ban them. It can't be that bad. They went to the marketplace. They told the people that they were bad and why. Right? And then the hairsprays came out. We are no longer destroying the planet's ozone. Buy us because we're being the good guys. And then because so many people bought that type, the government was able to ban chlorofluorocarbons without the lobbyists stop recycling. Recycling was a big thing. We were literally taught, stop littering. And every campaign when I was a kid was about stop littering. And they brought in this concept of recycling. Newspapers all over. Today, I threw the can, I missed the garbage can, and was walking past in my backyard. I was going to go pick it up later. And my grandson picked it up, threw it in there, and yelled at it. So that went from being a buzzword to a process to now a value. Recycling is a character trait. Do you recycle? That's a judgment on you. And it went from simply the concept that we need to do better for the earth, and we started saying we should recycle. We keep at it. Now, the youngest generation is a judgment on it. It's now a character trait. And so marketers want to control that. So now they can use that to sell product, to create a whole initial product. It's one of the ways to control. But they did it, and at the end of the day, did they do better for society? Or did society do better for itself? So it's not, I'm never going to tell you don't use these buzzwords. I use buzzwords all the time. So the last one I'm going to give you that's really important. So you heard recycle. Everybody's going to say recycle, reuse, That's a good one. You reuse things only so far, right? And reduce. That's another nice one. Spend less than to reply. The problem with it is really, do you want to really talk about reduction of things? And they go, oh, technology is all sorts of bad and everything else. This device has reduced the number of material objects I carry. I used to own a camera. I used to own a calculator. Tape recorder.
Date book.
Boombox.
Right? And most importantly, my external memory system. I used to know, when I was a kid, I knew every one of my friends' phone numbers, my grandmother's phone number, and the pizza place out on the street. Do you remember any numbers? I only remember one number because I use it for my GPS. So literally, in my lifetime, went from being being able to remember tons of phone numbers to giving you this device, right? Everybody gets mad at. This device is really very, very important because it reduces, demonetizes, it really makes the waste less. Gives us more capability, more communication. And one of the things you're going to hear about is what's called, this is a dumb machine. It's a smartphone, but a dumb machine. Because I can't up. So there's going to be a lot of times there's going to be a fight for the rebuild society. Why should I buy a whole new phone when it's like 3 chips? So this is where the next step of our sustainability. Is this technology sustainable? And the answer is yes, it'll endure. It's going to be now rebuilt. Can I buy the chip? So I have to really change. Nothing wrong with the case. Nothing wrong with most. It's only that because it gets smarter computer, gets smarter chips, more information. Because after all, heaven forbid, when smell-o-vision comes on here and I get a little attachment so that I can smell my dog 100 miles away, then heaven forbid that I am not capable of getting that attachment. And I have to buy a whole brand new phone to do it. I'm going to do that. You know? Simply put, we're so caught in the novelty. So in this way, so the real things you want to really talk about, you want to get people into this, you want to get them into their heads. And this is where it is. We should no longer be talking sustainability. We should give up that word. We should now be talking about what is good for us to sustain life, to build our lives. And we should be talking a lot more about this. Because after all, what is the number one thing that's happening in the world? The loss of biodiversity. So if you want to take advantage of lost biodiversity, what should you have? Only biodiversity. There are plants that cost thousands of dollars in my lifetime because it's less and less rare. Now people are trying to bring them back. Plants like the one that everybody talks about, glass corn. The glass corn costs nearly 100 times the break. Because people love that. Use it for bats and for other. And so, if he were just running sample corn, it'd be just enough for him and his family. But in a regenerative society, he's trying to regenerate corn to replace with other corn. So that's when we talk about regeneration. We are no longer talking about simply we cannot. This is an Anthropocene age. We have taken over sort of mechanism of plants and animals. There's nothing natural about this land in the strictest sense. Everything is here by the hand of time. Almost none of these plants will make native here. I was only here because either the fleet and other irrelevancy, when they would put in the house and everything, whatever they cared about what was around them, and they survived in little niches and corners, or they were plants brought in from outside in the 1940s, the 50s, the 60s, plants around beautiful, or whatever. We've changed. Never doubt when everyone talks about, oh, we need a native ground or native space. It's almost a political decision. They think it's an absolute national. So the last word I want to teach you is the most important word. The entire language of sustainability. We're not talking sustainability. because we're too far into climate change. What we're really talking about, before it becomes a buzzword, is terraforming. Terraforming. We are rebuilding the earth the way that we want to live it. And terraforming means to change dead or damaged areas of life into higher life. We're on the verge of terraforming Mars. We're on the verge of sending it. Before 2030, someone's going to send life to Mars. It might be a rogue company, but they're going to send plants to Mars. We've already put them on the moon. Right? When we try to change the environment, we've already terraformed our planet today. We pumped carbon, we pumped chemicals. I mean, imagine at one time we took kerosene. This was completely normal. Take kerosene. Kerosene was the most important ingredient. And then the second thing was pitch for housing. Right? And guess what was the byproduct that they got? Gas. They pumped millions and millions and millions, especially in Pennsylvania, of gallons of gas into fields. And that's what happened. Yeah, he saw Ford, he saw the vehicles, and he goes, I like that. And they found a new product and ended up being that. So in business, that's what it is. I was a vermicomposter. It means I composted the farm. And that was considered sustainable. It wasn't. Because in nature, they would break up. They go to their distance, and every loves the farm. So we see a lot of what they call sustainable. It's really regenerative process that they're trying to get us to understand. That allows us to grow more of what we're doing. Because the biggest mechanism in nature is abundance. If we didn't have abundance, we wouldn't survive. The reason we are able to sit here in such luxury, a beautiful night in a beautiful area, being able to listen, talk right now, because the high level of abundance that our society. And all of this, no matter what anyone says, really the question now comes down to what is the process that we want to make us feel like we're not going to destroy ourselves sometime down in the future. And that you really want to know how we're going to die as well. The word that you should use for that is how we're going to terraform the planet. How we live a sustainable life, how we build our planet. Make sure that we live that way. And that's really kind of what it is. So when you hear sustainability, think process, and no, they're trying to sell you a nice, warm, climate changing, believing heart. Any questions? I'm open to questions.
Well, it didn't fly over my head. I got it. And I really love the thought of the closed loop. That just really intrigues me.
So there's a place called Plant in Chicago, and that's where it's America's first permaculture farmer. I was based there. We started my worm business, and they really worked hard to close. They were an old meat factory, mercury in there. Oh my God, things that we saw there. They're actually both small. Yeah. How bad is that? And what he learned about sustainability, what we learned from there, is that it has to endure. So where it started out being an urban farm, it became a demo teacher. It actually made more people demo teachers, so we could build a bunch of demo models instead of an actual working farm. Because the city, after they gave us permission, got very nervous about us putting a methane generator in the middle of a neighborhood.
Right.
We never finished. And they got recounts. Several $1 million sit there. I guess somebody went around and said, do you know the neighbors that can blow portable fire? That's not true. And then one blew up. Wasn't quite a portable fire, but yeah, and that stopped it. And that would stop their dreams because they couldn't finish the loop. So they collapsed. Old town America used to be like that. So the town of Houston, Illinois, sweet corn set that. They grew the sweet corn in the neighborhood and around the world. They had iron produced, because Illinois produced iron, and they had coal shipped to the city. So they literally had printing, they had labels to put in. They literally took the corn, cooked it, canned it, made the can, covered it, wrapped it, and sent it out of the town. It was very much it was a semi-closed system. I sent the products from local, they fed all the materials into it locally, and they created the entire product. When they broke that loop, with NAFTA allowed them to move to factories, they destroyed entire towns. And they were already industrial. So anyone who tells you, that's really an important factor. When you build these closed loops, they're delicate. They're, the Amazon forest is a closed cycle. If you do not count the sun as an outside factor, because no model can you actually consider the energy source outside. And the rainwater comes in and washes the ocean on it. But everything else in there is self-sustaining. The people, the plants, and they've sustained for millions of years. The idea of a sustainable world. But you want to know something. The tragedy is, none of those populations were ever sustainable. None of them are absolutely sustainable. There's an island right in Mackinac in Michigan that's really important. It's called they have wolves and rabbits. They don't let anyone go on there. And if you watch this island year after year, the rabbit population goes up, after the wolf population goes down, then the wolf population goes up, the rabbit population goes down because they get eaten up, and the wolves die out. And they've been watching this for more than 50 years. Is that a sustainable culture?
Yeah. Yeah, but it fluctuates. But it's still keeping on because it's not extinct, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And at some point, the rabbits are going to figure out some mechanism that's going to get them to stay alive during wolf season. And then they'll pass that genetics on to their children. And eventually, you'll have a bunch of rabbits who get away from the wolves by jumping into the water. Right? And then they said, oh, we want to stay out in the water. And then we have water rabbits. Yeah.
But then the wolves will learn how to swim.
And that's it. Isn't that the game? So sustainability, the biggest danger of sustainability, why I dislike the word so much, is that it's really, to me, a reaction to being frightened of what's happening. So you want something that cannot change, must not change. But real sustainability must be reactive. You must react to what's happening and be able to change it. So even when it's closed loop, we have to have an outside agent to be reactive. It's a fly, like suddenly flies, because we actually had a white fly problem. They got into the entire place, and we took dramatic measures, like human intervention, apocalypse to the flies, the Armageddon death to the white fly population of the big building, air conditioning, everything, and white flies were amazing. And while we became an organic fly weapon system, and we ended it. We ended it forever. And I call it white flies. There's any sort of little white fly that's kind of beginning its evolution into, I'm going to be an urban, in the building fly, real high. And that's one of the things that happens, that if you're not successful, the problem we have, one problem we have inside our own is that we have to watch it for sustainability. It's not important to me that this farm is extremely important, but it's not that important. Is it going to be here? Will our grandchildren, my grandchildren, will their children? If we're talking about sustainability, then we have to say how long we want, how we're going to change it. We're not talking about your time. We're really not talking about sustainability. We're talking about the importance of cost. That's why people talk about three systems on farms like that. Pumpkin, beans, and corn growing together. It's not going to make it come back. Well, it was sustainable. What does that mean? It endured for a long period of time, and it worked over generations. That's what we originally meant. Today, it's not the emphasis of the product. We're sustainability raised water. We have sustainably raised water. We are organically raised water. We are loving and compassionate. That's it. We have this sort of thing. Like our plants are 100% organically raised. Of course they're. We use no chemicals. No, that's not how we nature of the real world works. They give us, ones that we use no chemicals. No, there are chemicals in them. But we don't, because they're not man-made chemicals. But so that language is very important. That we certainly our sustainability is okay. And then this comes to the real thing that I think that we understand is that you can create words. You can start planning words in society if we need to find. But find a new language. If you're feeling like you're not able to describe something, create the new language. We're going to need a new echo language. And I'm really counting on almost everybody else. Mm-hmm. And it's good. And I have words on it. A lot of putting out there. Echo. Are we echo friendly? Another market word. I want to take that one down.
We have a word. Sminished.
Diminished?
When you're puffing cannabis and you're done.
Yeah.
You're sminished.
It's a good one.
Sminished. Like not sminished.
Yeah.
I call the stuff that comes out of my washer that's all gooey when you clean it goopity goop.
Mm-hmm. That's a fun one. Yeah, absolutely. Ones you always hear about, like 420. No one even knows where it came from.
Came from a law in California.
That's what they say. Actually, there's like 4 origins points.
A what?
It's like 4 different stories.
No, not a lot. Not a lot. A police code or something.
One is a police book. The other one's a high school. The one that has a better time on high school, where the kids met at 420 again.
Oh, I like that one. That one's good.
They met every 420. It was where a certain place.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go 420.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was the last one. So these words get all the time. I mean, I'm shocked at some words get into a word.
Mm-hmm.
And we change them over time. I mean, the one that really gets me is how well we accept now Google.
Except what?
Google.
Mm-hmm.
Google, come on. It's within 1 with 100 zeros behind it. And there's Barney Google. But, it was a word that wasn't really out there for very much. And this search company has used it, right? And it was a search company saying, we're going to brand this.
Come on, very real.
And now Google has a verb, is a noun, is a brand. It owns a big chunk of our mind and how we do things, how we organize our knowledge.
They have bad doctors.
Huh?
They have bad doctors.
Bad doctors.
You ever Dr. Google?
Yeah. Yahoo. Yahoo was the one that got me early on as I watched it. America Online made sense. Straightforward project. America Online. You know what being online meant? It meant nationalism. Yeah, we're going to do really well here. That sort of thing. Or CompuServe. Oh, it's computer serving us. But when you got into Google, it was like, okay, Yahoo. Like we are. Because what was a Yahoo?
A shenaniganer.
Yeah. It was a yodel.
Yeah.
It was a bumpkin. And yet somehow they turned that into that control of language. Turned it into a major. And they even did this one. Made it a major. So, talking about other buzzwords. Paganism becomes a buzzword, and which definitely. We are now at the beginning of another buzzword. Which has now become. Has nothing to do with sustainability. Has everything in how it impacts our community and how we can teach people how to do better. Oh, but which? Oh my God! It's about to go into hyperdrive. You thought it had already had? It's gonna be bigger. People, that's what now it's up.
Thinking of it now. Thinking of it now, it's hard to define which. It's hard to even think of a good definition for that word.
This is what I'm talking about. So when I was young, a witch was an outsider. That was the original definition of the outsider, a strange individual. But I had a pastor who turned them into superheroes. Every year I was at Southern Baptist. I was on, on to being a minister. I am a minister now, but I mean, like, Southern Baptist, fire and brimstone, give me Ralph Reed. I will sell you the Bible, this Bible, and it's not only slightly used, it was used by a little grandmother to read to her grandchildren on the Sunday. I can let you have it from the 1800s. And just make a small donation, $500, and I will give you this very special Bible. That sort of Christianity. And every October, my pastor, right before Halloween, gives this sermon about the evils of witchcraft, how they're trying to take over the society, and how they did the Ouija board, and how they formed covenant, and how they could cast spells if you weren't paying attention, and how they could have demons enter in. It was really his horror. It was his horror special. And
You loved it.
I adored it. It's my favorite speech all year. Yeah, that sort of thing. And so when I was like 13, 14 years old, and as soon as I could really get out of the house, 14, 15, I went out and looked for the witches of Chicago. Guess what? They weren't hiding. They were kind of out in the open. And I kind of joined them, and they slowly started all sorts of things. The woman who would eventually become my gardenerian mother, Donna Cole Schultz, Donna Cole, right, got a hold of me finally after a couple of months. I said, we both have to be around it. Come back when you're 18. And they sold you bonds. This is, this is what we believe in. And I took that back to my pastor. Oh my God, go! And I realized I got out of it. So I took on the other big buzzword of our church, one true manipulation of us. And that is as big a buzzword, a marketing technique worth tens of billions of dollars that we use every day in our lives in marketing. I'm fighting it all my life. And I will realize that, in other words, the end result of all of our marketing, everything we do, is a genocide of the planet and all life. In order to be sold. It's ridiculous. This is a completely absurd idea. Using your car up so badly, when you have to make sure that there's nothing left of it before you get in the car. Well, if I knew that was going to happen and my car was starting to break down, I would be as quick as fast as I could to destroy it. And that was what I came to. So the other side we're fighting, what makes it really hard, is that in our big concept, in our society, the vast majority of us think of this as disposable culture. And that's a word you cannot use in our society. Why do you use it? Oh, we're disposable culture. People will push back on you. What do you mean we're disposable? Everything we got is thrown away. That big, beautiful China grandma's thing. None of the millennials want it, and the Americans don't want it even less. Yes, they do. We are a disposable society. Everything we create is disposable. Everything any human being has ever created is disposable. Only things that are not disposable are those things made in permanence. Very few things are made in permanence. Those things that are just like things we found. Things that we found. Not our tools, not our clothing, the things that we use to move forward. What is sustainable, truly sustainable? Why is pagan religion important? Why are our stories important? Why is everything we talk about important? Because that's where sustainability is. How we have to make our society, our culture better. And the way we make those more sustainable is through icons and sharing. Everything else we got in our society. My phone, tennis shoes, jeans, everything out here, most likely will be eventually picked up 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 years by alien archaeologists and figure out what we did years ago. And it'll be like the days of the past. What will carry on will be dance our ancestors program the mighty Siri and Alexa, who gave birth to the Google machine. You can still hear them remembering the chambers. That's what's sustainable. Everything else is about sustainable. What you want your story. That's why I became a pagan from that story, how I got involved with this. do witches. But for him, the witches were the most terrible thing in the world. They were going to destroy all of our children. Today, for a lot of people, witches being independent and positive female empowerment. Number one definition on everything. Every of the and of the main percent, it's these empowered females. The Star Hawk. It shouldn't be against. Good people who pass. They originally died as a protest, which they want to witchcraft protest. I think that's for a lot of young ladies. That largest group of coming into witch 18, 24 years old. And they're like, oh, my magic is we're mad. So a witch is a defiant outside creature with power. Think about it. You're being told, don't become a witch. Why? They're terrible. Why? They have magical powers. Really? Are you afraid of them? Yes, they can do all these terrible things. Wait.
Kill.
Okay, well, how do they do that? Well, they go out into the woods and they have sex. Really? With men? No, with each other. And take drugs. Faster. What part of the forest are they in so I know how to avoid it? But I mean, they tell them all these things. And it's one of these little stories we hear all the time, They do so many terrible things. Oh, but they're completely powerless once we put our hand on them in the name of Christ. And we can absolutely destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
Either so that image is so powerful because everybody's so afraid of the violence of it. Now they're having to face us in droves where they can't use violence against us. And now they're scared. And if you knew you're scared, we've used words of scared. Witch has always been one word to be scared. We've always had the word witch. I'm a witch. And there were women like Mae West. There's some pieces where she thought she was not a witch. She said, there's a little witch in every woman.
I found it a delicious one. When I first called myself a witch, it just felt
delicious.
Beautiful, delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great word.
Guys do that?
How would you? Do you use the word when you heard the word witch? And I'm presuming I don't expect that you are one.
I think I used the word witch.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was scary. I thought it was more mystery.
I always thought of it as more fun. Growing up, I never wanted to be. I always was watching these fairy tales like Snow White. I thought the Queen was cooler than Snow White.
She dressed better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, have you seen Canoe Gorilla at the Hill?
No, I want to.
Oh, I was just curious.
Can't men be witches too?
That was the thing that blew my mind when I found out when men could be witches. I was very young when I found out. At the same time when I was hunting for the witches, those were God's spy. I was working in the church. Spy. Oh, he made so blurry. And when I found out men could be witches, like, okay, where do I sign up? So why would you not want to be if you're not living in fear? Why would you not want to be a witch? And yet most people are so afraid of it they don't want to. There's a meme going around that I think is really powerful, and I haven't seen a lot of good answers yet. I haven't answered. Why we taught about the witches that we burned, not the burn? And that's an interesting question.
I think the most unlikely people showing that meme too.
Yeah, why are we talking about the witches that were burned? That's a really important story. So witch is another one of these words that went from being sort of used as a shortcut. I mean, literally a shortcut to be able to make an accusation to a person they can't fight with, to now being a powerful icon in our society that is scared the hell out of the evangelical right now in a way that they haven't seen certain. And then you have all of us who are practitioners of one form or another trying to find our witches and with that nature. And of course, you have the last step. If it has the word witch on it, and you sell for a penny more than you remember the whole roll, marketing comes in.
I have noticed that with books, especially, they have books, they're labeled witch or have spells in the title. It's way more expensive than your normal fiction books.
Mm-hmm. Top.
Yeah.
Here we go. Rise, number one song. So for everybody out there, if you guys have any questions out there in television land,
Lily Allen or
Huh?
yeah, who is that?
this is a group called Marina
Marina and the Diamonds.
and Pussy Riot out of Russia.
Oh wow.
It's like a mainstream song. You have to grab.
You're rising?
Huh?
You ever do songs like that? Or not?
And line is going into the last part. So that's the opening line. That's what they're sequencing. This is what the big movement is. It's anger, it's poetry, it's music, it's performance, and it's magic. It's casting binding spells, voodoo dolls, weaponized voodoo dolls. Yes, you can voodoo. You ever want to scare somebody? You want to end an argument? It says, oh, I don't believe in witchcraft. I don't believe in anything. Just ask for a piece of hair. It will end an argument. Well, why'd you give me a piece of your hair? I told people, I've built a number of voodoo dolls. One of my biggest things I want to build, I want to do AIDS. I want people to help me with pieces for Congress. I want to make voodoo dolls for all the time. I almost got enough people there to almost do it. So you can see voodoo dolls. So a lot of our language is being that, and in that process of words being generated, our magic has changed. That's a different system of argument. That our language is becoming more useful. So as we use our language, witches and pagans are becoming much more listened to, much more heard. Our language is growing really more powerful. I mean, the song was right there, just really that really exalted Hollywood look that everybody always likes to look at. Big witches. Fantastic. So sustainability is a buzzword. So remember, use it. Well, so remember, use it. If you're selling your products, don't be afraid to use it, but be willing to say if you really want to make a value out of it. Ask for the process, ask for the methodology, and more importantly, how long do you think the process will actually last? And if you get that answer, you can actually make a real impact. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to me drone here. Looks like everybody's out hunting so out there. So ever you guys have a good evening. Enjoy. I think we're gonna be back a little later in the evening with a concert, right?
Mhm.
And so
And that'll be on the main stage feed.
So there it is. If you have a question tomorrow, I'll be talking about wisdom of the worms. Yes, I believe in the fourth wall. I understand what it is. And then the one I think is going to be really valuable for people. If you like anything I said here, but how do you actually make a living? Will be Gaia conscious, how to be Gaia economics and capitalist society. So real down to earth, practical class.
Thank you.
And now,
So when you were telling your story, I was really curious. Did you go back when you were 18
what's that?
to the witches? What did you?
Yeah, I did.
You did? I was wondering if
No,
that's
go
when
ahead.
you went back.
I did. It took me a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get really back until like 23 because I went to the military. Then I became a dad. I had two children. I had to have a job. But once I could sustain myself long enough to have actually some free time, I went back. Like I went once, at the age of probably between 18 and 23, I went like 3 or 4 times. At 23, I went back a couple times, got my veterinarian. And then when I was 28, I met Lord Don Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning of change. That's the beginning of change. So we're done.
Well, fun.